Yeah, that I just read something about intimacy that said that it's like what intimacy really is the moment when you can like truly be yourself to someone and like express yourself in whatever way you want or choose, and then that person is just like cool, like I that's cool, I dig it, like, and that person just kind of like accepts you or just lets you in whatever state, like, it doesn't always have to be like at your worst or at your best or whatever, or with your secrets or whatever. It just could be, just like you just anything, but just that moment where you do that and the other person does that, like they just let you be in their presence. And some people call it holding space or, being down to earth, being non-judgmental. There's all these ways of like looking at that, and all these things are all happening, and they're all unique in their definitions. However, truly all of them are expressions of intimacy. You got that because you were saying love, like, but like love is intimate, I guess. But like, I even love people that are far away or that I've never met, or like I love like the planet or the stars, stuff like that that I can't really touch. And you think of intimacy as being like close, which is funny because really like all of it is close. Like, there's no like far, there's no space really or time, really in distance in terms of that, like in terms of love. But yeah, like you mentioned love, like exactly right. That's really what it is. But it's really like, but you know what goes into that, right? Like that's why people say it's more than just a feeling, or because intimacy feels good. It feels warm and safe, and there's all these other feelings associated with it that are loving. But it's more than a feeling because how did you get there? Like it didn't just happen. Like that other person wasn't just an intimate person, or it was like it was a choice, it was an action, it was an energetic expression on both parties to choose certain choices that led to that feeling of safety being able to be achieved, that intimacy to be achieved. And yeah, you can't do that without love. Like love is the motivator, the energy that backs that, the foundation that supports that intimate connection of two people being who they were created to be, who they are destined to be, who they are as they are, like in any state, no matter what is going on. Like that's the non-judgmental part because it doesn't matter. There's no label. It doesn't matter if like that's your like what role these people play, if it's a stranger, if it's a friend, if it's a boyfriend or a husband, a wife, a child, like it doesn't matter. It transcends all of that because or like what these people look like, if it's an interracial couple, if it's a fat person, like no one cares. Like in that scenario, intimacy is intimacy, love is love in that scenario. It just is. It's an energy. It's the motivation that keeps these people choosing like to do the tough thing, the harder choice, the like it's hard to like chop through thick ass jungle and brush and vegetation, and you can't see anything. If you don't have a path and you're out there doing it, you're the first one, but you're doing it for a reason. It's a loving gesture. Maybe that, carving a path isn't always intimate, but it's loving because you look back, you don't look back, you're going forward, but all the people that follow you are going to have a safe road to walk down, and not all of them have the strength or the agility to carve that path, so they may have never gotten to where they're going if you hadn't made that loving choice to blaze that trail. And it's not like you can really control what happens after you do that, or who's going to walk down that path, or what happens next. And that's the faith and the where the leap, where you just go into the unknown, like, I hope my love is enough. And yeah, it really is. It's funny that you said like you made that joke about me like slowing it down or whatever, but you also did mention that it was a fair request and that you honored that, and I think you have totally, but that's not the point. The point was that I kind of wanted to elaborate on that, like when it comes to like you also mentioned that dating these days is different and weird, as we all know, and especially with kids. And online stuff and internet stuff. Everybody knows by now how fucking weird it is and different than when we were younger or when our parents were doing it and all that. So, but like, so the reason that I had to kind of pump the brakes on everything, like in general, like with no exceptions, was because, like, I ran into the same problems over and over again. And it's kind of like it's kind of like doing an overhaul of your, it's like doing an overhaul of your business. You have to, if you have so many problems or backlog or corruption or bottlenecking or whatever the issue may be, you just overhaul, you just have to look at it and almost like fire everybody. That was kind of what happened, but I had to come up with a new policy. And it sounds stupid. It's not a business, it's a fucking relationship, but basically, or a lifestyle or choice of how to date. But, and it was like, I know you don't have to defend your right to be single or whatever, and it's a personal choice regardless, but I think it's an interesting reasoning because, and it's kind of a question, more of a question. Maybe you ran in, I don't know, you were with the same person for a long time, so maybe not, but I kept finding that people don't really break up anymore. Like no one ends one thing before they go to the next thing. That was the main problem. Was I was constantly actually since the first baby daddy, like day one of being 19 years old, getting with him, um, he was hung up on his ex. And then once we had a kid, and then before he got married, he was hung up on hating me, not loving me, but he still never got over me. So it was always like he was always over the person prior, no matter who he was with, until he finally got married and had two more kids, and now we just don't even speak. But like, so that was when it started. And then after that, mostly every guy, if it had been serious, now if it's like a friend or a fling, I've had friends last 3 years, flings last 3 years, one night stands that lasted years because yes, like people like me. I'm good at what I do. But I had to, it's like people didn't want to let me go. They didn't want to say goodbye. And even if they just call and say hi or see how I am or have friendships with me, they still don't want to let me go. It's not always about sex. Sometimes there is love there. And some of these people do tell me they love me, but none of them can offer me what I really want. And as much as I love these people or whatever, friends or whoever, whether we sleep together or not, as much as I value them for different reasons and we have shared interests and blah, 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 we have reasons to be friends and reasons to be in relationships. And sometimes these soulmates and shit, we have reasons to fucking have businesses together and live lives and buy homes and make families and have farms and like all these fucking people, we could have done any of that together. And they always fuck it up. And it's not always their fault. I get it. A lot of times it's just fucking timing, but it's usually the same story. And the story is that they already did it with someone else who turned out to be someone that didn't deserve it or didn't deserve them or they, whatever, bad timing there too. And the kids are great. Gotta love the kids. Everybody does. But here we are. It's after the fact. And even though people like, here I am now doing it again. You get second chances in life when God gives them to you. I mean, I got this second chance to be a mom, so I'm gonna take it. But in this case, I'm doing it entirely alone. Just like when I got that job in LA and I had a great salary, a killer apartment, like the best, most safest place you could live in Los Angeles. I was living there and a penthouse view of the Hollywood sign and shit, and Mother's Beach and Venice Beach, a mile from Venice Beach. Yet I'm alone. You know what I mean? I'm alone. Like what the fuck? And that ain't so bad, I guess. And now I'm just complaining, or I'm about to cry, but I'm not really trying to like prove any point. I know I don't have to explain why I want to be single or whatever, despite you being a great catch, but I really want empathy here that maybe you understand. It just sucks, bro, because I am down and I've always been down, and it sucks that all the blame fell on me too. It really does. Like, where's no one else involved in any of that? That's what I want to know. Like I was thinking about the way that I can relate is when it comes to people, it's like when they cut you off and they let you go, but then they don't really let you go, or if you have business with them, whether, I mean, or you have like ties to them in some way, like whether it's bills or kids or whatever, you have to still talk to that person for whatever reason, but they don't really want to talk to you, and no one really has a reason that they're choosing to talk to each other. I don't know if that's where you're at with her. I'm not referring to you guys in this case, but I just mean like I've noticed that when that starts to happen, and it's actually like you said, a good sign. It's it's a good sign because like you said, it means things are moving forward, but it also has to fall apart before it comes back together. So sometimes it's like you tell these people like, hey, I'm not down with the way you're treating me. I'm not down with the way you're acting in your life, whether like, different reasons. And these people go like, um, okay, well then fuck you. Like I want my stuff back. All right, well now we have to like I have to call you every month and pay my phone bill on your plan, or I have to, pick up the kids every weekend. So like once that like kind of line in the sand gets drawn, and those people, but like they're still tied, right? So it's almost like they're still feeding off you. Like not all of them. It depends on their level of disconnect and their level of minding their own fucking business. But there's at that point, there's no love, and it's too late to apologize. And every other fucking R&B pop song out there, title insert here, because that's where you're at that point, and it was just a dream. Like I always like to listen to Nelly at this portion of the relationship. Dude, I feel this so much. But like the problem that I really am at, it's a very, and I call it no man's land because it's so lonely at that point. When all of your friends were karmic, or most of them, and most of ours are, because um like people say, you only get one or two real ones in life, and that's good enough. You're lucky if you get that, and that's why they say that. Because most of us are living with a bunch of fucking karma. That's what the fuck this is about. We're clearing it up, we're healing, and a lot of times family can be, like you said, you can create your own with love. And um, sometimes blood is not thicker than water. Sometimes blood will take your last fucking sip and break your cup in the process. But like the problem I run into is once you get to that no man's land where you're just alone, and like you realize like you've made it clear where you stand. You don't want to fucking give away your time, attention, and your loyalty and shit to people that don't deserve it. And then they realize, oh, this person ain't gonna give me what I want. He ain't gonna pay my bills no more. He ain't gonna tell me what I want to hear. So now fuck him. I'm gonna get my revenge. And even if they do it passive aggressively or subtly or just by withholding love and affection from you or your kids or whoever, this doesn't even have to be your wife. It could be literally anybody that does this. A boss could do this shit. And I'm not going to ramble about this because this is a never ending topic. I'm not going to ramble. But the point was that, like, even when this happens, the sad part is when you get there and they're draining me and blocking me, but they're not giving me shit. It's such a fucking one-sided fucking situation. I hate it because it's really truly like it's fucking like if you have enough karmics and enough narcissist exes and enough baby daddies or whatever, if you have enough of that, it's like being buried alive. I'm not fucking kidding. It is miserable. And no one really understands unless they've been there. And they're just like, why are you in this fucking position? And at that point, the credibility has been slashed. And all the team of flying monkeys, like in Dorothy, are flying around. It's like scary, bro. That's exactly right about the choice that it's a powerful choice that has long-lasting, incredible impacts that go far beyond selfish re motivations. And that's like that, like you just said, the choice to get up and be family oriented or work hard or all these ways it manifests and looks in your daily life. But the ultimate thing is like the choice to be the person you want to be, which is to be there for your kids ultimately and also for yourself, because that's a way, in my opinion, a way better to sleep at night, way better way to sleep at night, knowing that I'm living in service to my family, but also to myself because I'm a part of that family as the head of the household. So, and I love that in my own personal life. And I know you've talked about your mother and stuff. So I already know you can relate. But um, in my own personal life, I've seen the same thing in terms of the male perspective. Like my dad has always been very incredibly hardworking, and to the point where like just like you said earlier, like I ain't no bitch, I can do construction. Like that's exactly the same kind of mentality. But like he's educated, he doesn't have to do that necessarily. Sometimes he wants to, sometimes it makes sense, and sometimes it's helpful to the family. And it's not about like always about that one person. It's like about the bigger picture, what the mission is, what's going to get the job done, and what do you have to do that day for survival, but also for happiness and joy and goal setting. And it's not just like we're in a society, so we don't have to just survive every day, but ultimately that's the first step, feeding your family and having a roof. And then you go on from there and like building a legacy, giving them education, giving them things that they can be happy and proud about themselves, and building that is long lasting. So there is incredible incredible value in that investment. Like it just only makes sense. It's only smart. And it's also like challenging. If anyone devalues that choice, it's because they can't, one, they can't do it, they won't do it, they're not willing, or they're not capable, or they literally, it makes them look bad that other people strive to be loving or strive to work hard or strive to do what they want and exercise their freedom, or what they've worked for, develop like their harvest. So, the fruits of their labor and shit, whether it's spiritual or material. So, like, all those reasons, the reason anyone would ever devalue that is just simply because it would serve them to, lie, and it's because we all know that that's the most righteous thing you can fucking do is be family oriented, but not just that, because being family oriented, like we're speaking of, in reality is like, and hardworking is like having character, it's having grit, honor, it's honorable, it's having substance, it's having longevity, it's being a person that's worth a damn. And yeah, I mean, that absolutely transcends culture. So the way that is funny because I've always used this example. I love that you brought family into this because the way I always use it is in the terms of the race sensitivities, issues with racism, or whatever, just race in general, race relations, I guess. And this time it's not about that. We're just talking about love and values. And I love that, but it's the same thing I always say about my personal life is I have such a mixed experiential bag of experiences. Like in the course from the time I was a little kid growing up, my friends and the cultures they were from, in all the ways and all the different ones, that were unique to my lifestyle and the way I grew up and where I grew up and the time I grew up in and all that. It was such a blessing because I had both sides. I literally had both sides of every culture almost. From Indians to Mexicans to blacks to whites. I've seen it. I've seen both sides of almost everybody, even though I've never had to leave the country. Um, and even though that was very hard and it made my life kind of messy to look at, like ultimately it taught me some things that have saved my heart and my goodness and my faith and my ability to believe in the goodness of people and humanity. My faith in humanity was saved by that. Because if I had just, for example, let me just go on the other side for a second. If I had just only ever seen the good side of, like, okay, like I don't want to make it about race again because we've already transcended that. But like where this started was the way I looked at how, for example, growing up with our friends that are black, but they were one of my dearest mentors who's known me from the time my mom was pregnant is a very respected, powerful like, attorney. He was the first black district attorney in San Rafael in the Bay Area, like the very first black guy there in that club. Like now he's like, judge status. Like this guy is, but he's a loving person who serves his community. And his kids were my age, and he went to school with my dad. So when I grew up with them, and he made history. This is a huge influence in my life. And he showed me the side of black culture that was positive, like because even though they grew up in the suburbs, like obviously like this was a nice neighborhood, had money, but they were still black. Like when I played basketball with all those kids that were my age all as well, the boys, they were so nice, like they just accepted me and I'm the only white person there every time. Or we played Halo or video games, and it was always just me being the only one there that didn't really fit in, especially with boys, especially with video games, stuff that, and I played basketball, but I didn't really know how to play Halo. They taught me, like, they were very accepting and loving and warm and welcoming, and it was never about our differences. So that was my foundation, and then, like, later when I had the other flip side of that, and, I told you about, the gang assault, and, like, then I got to see, like, the side of gang culture and violence and assault and rape and Crips and what that meant. And that's black too, but that was not the same. It's not a black or white issue, but the whole point of that example was to because you could put somebody in that situation, right, where they only see one side of it or only see the other. And either way, if they only see one or the other, they're really going to have a very specific bias or judgment. But in my case, I saw both. Luckily, the foundation of what I had was the love, the love that transcended race. And that was just there from friendship that had been built over before I had ever even entered this earth. That was the love that had been built before I came. So that's where family really comes from, is the bond, like a mother and father nest. First comes love, then comes marriage. They fall in love, they bond, and then the baby's born into this nest. It's like, oh, like the love is the reason I'm here. So like, you can trust the world. You can trust it's not, even if there is racism in the world or violence or evil, like you just trust, like I know that you just know because it was there before you got there. It's like you can just trust it. And so like no matter what like kind of illusions appear after that, like you have that foundation is all I'm saying. And so like I'm to this day remain mostly rather unbiased. Sometimes I can be ignorant. Like you saw me meet Sir Lance Woods, and I fucking didn't know how to. I left him hanging on the wiggle. Like if he had fist bumped me, I would have been fine. I didn't know what the wiggle was. Like like there's still issues with me and black people. But it doesn't mean I'm gonna like assume that just because that guy has a certain skin color, I know who the fuck he is. You know what I'm saying? No matter what has happened to me, whether I have been loved and cradled and held as a baby by a black guy or the complete opposite. You know what I mean? It doesn't really matter because that third party, that new person I'm meeting that just so happens to have the same race has nothing to fucking do with either of those situations. But the human mind is very good at making those associations.
I could tell when you were talking about that example you gave about how, just from when you're like, I'm looking at these guys on TikTok and I'm thinking, and the way you described that, I could see from your perspective how you were looking at that through the lens of marketing and using your experience as someone that would market content to think like, where is this guy coming from? And that's how I know because I do the same thing. Like if I watch even a movie, like a Marvel movie or shit, I shouldn't have said that, but like any kind of superhero action movie, as I'm watching it or sci-fi or whatever stuff I read about, as I watch it, I think like um I'm so busy thinking from the perspective of the creator. Like I go like, oh, well, were they, and not as if it's my work, but like, what were they, like, just kind of like putting yourself in their shoes, thinking like, what were they thinking when they made that choice? What was the discussion in the writer's room? What were they trying to convey? What message were they trying to convey by utilizing that archetype or that artifact or that, symbol in that movie? So because it's hard for me to really enjoy entertainment for that reason, because we're just like, so I knew we had that in common, and I could see it was specifically the lens of marketing as well, because um and it's funny how you mentioned that people would criticize you for that, because like, dude, this is America. And yeah, there are ups and downs. That's literally life. Even when you get to that higher elevation and it's a whole new world and you got to relearn new levels, new devils, all that shit. But even when you get there, you will, it's like it's never straight sailing, smooth sailing 100% of the time. Even if you're on like a, you're fucking Magellan going across the whole, world or whatever. I don't remember what he did exactly, but you're doing all that shit. You're gelling like Magellan and you're out there and like, it's like you could be a pro and it's still not going to be completely perfect weather every single day. That's just the nature of the seas. Thank you. Like, because I got to break this silence, somehow. And it's not like it's not going to stop there at entertainment and it's not going to stop at just mindless chatter or filling airtime. It's like I have to do that now. And I love that you're offering that as a through friendship to allow me to express myself. But it's not just for like therapy, like talk therapy. It's like I gotta break the silence. You know what I mean? Like once I get in the habit of just speaking again, after this, like after what made me stop speaking, and now I can just start again, it'll just then I can start making it teaching, again.